one of the things that I learned while I was going through this was the meaning of the name Israel, because Jacob eventually gets named Israel. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit to the next lecture, but Israel, and so he's also the father of Israel and the father of the 12 sons who make up the 12 tribes of Israel. But what Israel means is he who struggles with God. And that's such an interesting idea, because it's, again, a psychological idea. And that's why I said earlier that it isn't obvious in the Old Testament what it means to believe in God, because what Jacob does is struggle with God. And I think that that's a really good characterization of an ethical life, because if you're trying to lead an ethical life, that's what you're doing, is you're struggling. Like, blind belief isn't helpful because you don't know what you're believing in. Like, it's just not that helpful. But if you're possessed by the desire to orient yourself properly, but also confused by the existential structure of the world, which we all are, then what you're doing when you're trying to orient yourself properly in life is struggling ethically. And Jacob actually gets quite hurt. He wrestles with God, literally, and God dislocates his thigh. And so, the idea there is watch the hell out, right? The thing that you're contending with is powerful, although you can contend with it. That's the thing that's so interesting. But, you do it at some genuine peril, which I think is exactly right. But the idea that Israel, so there's Israel, the state, let's say, and Israel, the promised land, and all of that. But there's this more important idea, which is, again, a psychological idea, which is the state of Israel, which is the promised land, is the state that everyone who wrestles with God exists in. And that's not happy, naive belief in, an eternally blessed afterlife. It's not that. It's not a wish fulfillment. It's to be actively engaged in life, in the difficulties of life, right? And trying to find the path. Because that's what wrestling with God is trying to find the path. And that seems to me what belief means fundamentally in the Old Testament, and perhaps in the New Testament as well, is that belief is expressed in trying to find the path. And that's an ethical struggle, and it's a real struggle. It's the struggle of life. So as long as you're willing to engage in that struggle, then hypothetically you have the divine behind you. And so I believe that. I think that's true. Because the other thing I see is that the people who set things right so that the horrible forces of cosmic destruction don't do us in, the people who are trying to set things right are the ones that are struggling ethically. And that there is a redemptive element to that. And I don't think there's any way of being cynical about that. So thank you. We'll